Joining me now is the executive director of Breaking the Silence, Avner Gavriyahu, with whom I toured some of the occupied territories in 2019, in particular Hebron, which is one of the starkest examples of the apartheid-like situation that exists for Palestinians. Avner, I want to talk to you about some of the news we're just getting right now first. This does feel like an escalation. With each passing hour, we're getting more reports of rockets going from Gaza to Israeli cities, being intercepted by the Iron Dome, and more efforts by the Israelis to silence those rockets and to punish the Gazans in particular.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Ali, and it's I think that's the precise point to understand. Where we're living this sort of Groundhog Day of cycles over and over and over again. And I'm speaking to you now from my apartment in Tel Aviv. Any second now, I could have to rush off to a bomb shelter, and something that just happened literally less than an hour ago. But I think part of what I try to keep reminding myself is that this reality that's taking place just a few kilometers south from here in Gaza is a man-made crisis, and one that I, as an Israeli, I see myself as an Israeli patriot, feel the responsibility to speak out against in order to change the reality here on the ground.
Avner, we know many people here in the United States whose kids willingly go over to Israel to join the armed forces in standing in solidarity with a country that they rightly believe deserves to live in peace and free of harassment. But there are some things that that you and I saw together, we saw Israeli soldiers doing, that parents of these American kids don't know is going on, that this is not necessarily exclusively this patriotic job of protecting for and standing for the state of Israel, which is an important job. There's more to it than that. There's active involvement by members of the military in really breaking the spirit and controlling the lives of Palestinians.
I mean, I would say, and this is true to Gaza, but definitely true to Israel in general. Israel not only has the right, but I believe the duty to protect its citizens. And shooting into a populated area, I believe, is indefensible and should be condemned. And I say that, unequivocally, and I think that's important to understand. But we also have to realize that when we talk about Israel's control over Palestinians, and this is true to the West Bank and this is true to the Strip, what we've been doing for many, many years now, and this has definitely been true, with Netanyahu's leadership, is do whatever we can to entrench the occupation. And in the same way that we maintain our control over Palestinians in cities like Hebron, with patrols, checkpoints, night raids, making our presence felt, showing our control, as we discussed on the streets of Hebron, some of these streets totally closed off for Palestinians, or as soldiers call them, sterilized roads. We also see a reality, not only in Hebron, but also in the Gaza Strip, that part of the way that we control the Gazans are these reoccurring operations. This concept of mowing the lawn, that we are sort of in these cycles of violence. Now, this does not mean there is no Palestinian violence. This does not mean that there isn't responsibility on leaderships on both sides. But I think it is important to say that a big part of the energy Israel is using with its military forces, not in order to defend the state of Israel so much as it's to defend the Israeli control over Palestinians. And I think part of what groups like Breaking the Silence are demanding or calling for is, for the sake of Israelis and Palestinians, we have to rethink, the way we've been operating, because another round is just around the corner, and nothing that another building in Gaza will collapse, or sadly another Israeli citizen shot in his or killed in his apartment in Ramat Gan will end. The only way to end it is with political will. And that's why it's so important for us to, as those who carried out this military control, to speak out.
Avner, I understand there are sirens going on around you, so please seek shelter. Thanks for joining us. Avner Gavriyahu is a executive director of Breaking the Silence.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.